We get started. Shout out to my daughter Sarah, her husband Sam, and my two wonderful grandchildren Vera and Allie. Just had to put that plug in before we started. Just want to welcome everyone. This is PMI's of Southern Maryland's Tree Talks with project managers. My name is Harry Zolkauer. I'm the Vice President and COO of PMI of Southern Maryland. Our chapter covers a lot of geography. It starts from St. Mary's County all the way to Charles to Calvert, all the way north to Prince George's County. So we really appreciate your participation tonight. We have a really exciting program for you. Tonight's topic is on talent management. And we're really fortunate to have two very distinguished guests with us who are experts in the field. And we'll introduce them in a moment. This show features for the first time our new producer, Dan Stay. Dan has graciously spent innumerable hours getting this show prepared and ready for our live stream for the first time on YouTube. So just a big shout out and thank you to Dan. For any questions that you might have in the audience, if you have any comments or any links that you'd like to share with the audience, please feel free to use the chat feature that's within the YouTube application. And I'll do my best to make sure your questions are addressed. It is with great pleasure now to introduce to you Kendall Lott. Kendall has many, many hats. He's the president and CEO of Empowered Strategies. He's also the co-founder, CEO, and chair of the board of Project Management for Change, an organization that's very dear to my heart. He is also the founder and the host of PM Point of View, which is a podcast show. And I just found out that he was elected as Chief Operating Officer and President-elect of the largest PMI chapter in the world, which is PMI of Washington, D.C. So without further ado, please welcome our host with the most, the incomparable Kendall Lott.
Harry, I think I need music after an introduction like that. I had not anticipated that. Well, to everybody listening from Southern Maryland, look, our region happens to be lucky to have the world's largest project management executives called the U.S. federal government, because as we know, they can put trillions of dollars out into the project, literally trillions, out into the project management space for us. So that's how you end up being a large chapter. So we're lucky that we're in good proximity to the place where they print the money, right? So I'm glad we're there, and thank you for the invite there, Harry. I noticed that you stepped up here today. We've missed Marina often, and now you're here. We've had her on here rather often, so I'm glad that you were able to kick us off today. And again, thanks for Dan. I saw Dan come up on the picture there, and I was thinking, oh, he should have cue cards for me to read. That would be most helpful. We need to figure that out. That might be fun.
Or teleprompter.
Yeah, a teleprompter. That might work as well. But thank you for that introduction. Yeah, probably too many hats. But that I'm always looking for volunteers, by the way. If anyone is in the DC region that would like to volunteer, we're looking for volunteers for the DC chapter, and I bet Southern Maryland is too. So we'll continue our collaboration in the hats that we wear, Harry, both of us in various circles. Hey, listen, tell me something here. What made you want to pull up this discussion around, I guess you called it investigating talent management. I mean, what's the deal there? We all know that we're managers of people in part, but we don't normally own the talent acquisition part. What made you think about this topic?
Yeah, so actually I owe the honor of Michelle Weddington is actually the one that came up with the topic. And
shout out, Michelle.
So I really appreciate Michelle getting our two esteemed guests on the show. It's a topic that really we don't talk about a lot in project management. And usually you hear about talent management in the world of human resources, and not really, we don't talk about it a whole lot. So I thought, and thanks to Michelle for actually bringing this to the fore. But in consultation with Michelle, we really felt this was a gap that we haven't talked about too much as a profession. So that's why we're here. And so I'm really tickled that we have Adrienne and Michael here as our special guests. So welcome.
Excellent. Well, thank you. So, guys, you remember what he said earlier. Put your questions in the chat. If we got no questions, we got no answers. So otherwise, we've just got exposition for you and no PowerPoints, right? So with that, I'm going to bring up our first guest, Harry. As you said, we've got Adrienne Somerville. So let's bring Adrienne up onto our stage here. As it were, there she is. There she is. Hey there. Haven't seen you in a while. On video, anyway. So nice to see you. So Adrienne comes at us from, well, lots of different jobs, as it turns out. She's the commander for Fleet Readiness Centers, the Acquisition Group Head Director. That's like so many words and syllables. I had trouble getting it out there. But she's also the CEO of a consulting organization. Now I understand where you're coming from. So CEO of Somerville Consulting Group and, oh, we're not done. And another one, Talent and Technical Solutions, TTSC. Say that fast, you'll love it. You're going to hear more about TTSC later because we're going to bring up the other guests around that. But I thought I was busy with webcast, podcast, and all that stuff Harry just said. But there's more. Turns out that she's even more busy than that. She's also an author. So she recently released a book, WINGSPAN, Gaining Corporate Dominance. So we're not messing around with talent management or talent acquisition only. We are attempting corporate dominance. So Adrienne, welcome, and let's talk dominance.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. Thank you for that warm introduction by Harry and Kendall. It's an honor to be here. It's an honor to talk to everyone this evening. Super excited. This is like my favorite subject ever. So I'm excited to be here. So thank you so much for having me.
Well, let's jump right off on that book there because I thought it was interesting. It's where you've culminated a lot of thoughts on it. What's your thesis there? What what's the main point of the book that you end up expressing?
So the main point of the book is an organization that does not fully align its people to the products that they deliver is not a healthy organization in today's time. And then the premise of it's great to know the quality of your workforce and the quantity of your workforce. And for years, organizations just would count people. How many people do I have? How many engineers? How many program managers? How many logisticians? One leaves, we backfill. One leaves, we backfill. Training is up, same training we offer them year after year after year. And talent management allows you to leverage the data more in the arena of the quality of the workforce you have that drives those HR decisions. So when you think talent management, immediately people go, yep, that's my HR group. Although independent, they're certainly interdependent as well, but they're not synonyms. So that's a very key point to make. The talent management is more analytics, it's more data, it's more strategic, it's the decision-making work, that body of work that goes into what is HR going to focus on. So that's the hugest takeaway of the book, that they're not the same, they're separate and distinct, but you need both to optimally perform and to connect the people to the products that they deliver, skills needed to do very well and gain corporate dominance.
Well, I'm hearing you say that it's strategic. So what is it actually that makes it different than when I think HR? How are you seeing that as different then? You say it's strategic. You say it don't just backfill. Tell me more about the actual what goes on in it.
So with talent management, you have to understand the multiple layers. So when I say talent management, I think of it being much more strategic because now it's about what's the area of interest? Like what's the market sector we're most interested in? What's the skills needed to perform? What services as an organization we're going to provide in that arena? Okay, so more importantly now, what skills would an organization need to thrive? Do we need to have battery engineers or do we need traditional electrical engineers? That's an example. Do we need to then look at, well, what skills do we have in our organization? What skills are out in what is deemed the great resignation that we can bring into our organization? All of that's data driven, right? You're using some sort of business intelligence to derive what those solutions and recommendations should be. And it's with that decision, after you canvass what you do have, now I can pivot and go to my HR person with a high degree of fidelity and credibility to say, this is what I need you to do. So very respectful of the HR community. But when you think of it, it's a little bit more transactional, right? You've got all this business intelligence from the talent management world that you're now feeding to your HR group. And then they're able to move forward with making those hiring and making those training decisions based on all of the data you provided.
One of the things I thought was interesting, you hit it here, and you were very clear about it when we spoke earlier as well, is this idea about alignment to product, or I would imagine services as well. In other words, what you're producing. A step of more clarity than just saying alignment to mission. It's getting more and more specific. And I think PMs, listen up. I think you can relate to this, right? Mission is ultimately a statement of scope, and we get into the scope at the declined level, at the decomposed level, right? So this is alignment to the specific things you need to produce. We have these people hired with skills and quality of delivery to get this, right? Like that rang true with me. But here's what struck me as funny. Like, who's hiring and not doing that? And like, how did we get out of alignment for that anyway? What's going on there? You indicate it's a non-healthy organization.
Question. Yeah, well, it's a great, so we've become in some societies where, we do what we've always done, right? Have you ever seen the movie Moneyball? Everyone's doing the same. We hire the way we always hire. We offer the same training that we always offer. And now when you think about like, where is the world going and what's the next area of interest and how do we position ourselves to win and to gain? Look at the world and all the threats that we have going on today. What do we need to be focusing on? That happens outside of the HR community, right? All that analysis, and project managers and program managers, this is very key. When we bring people onto the teams in which we have to make sure that we offer, right? We identify what those individuals are supposed to be delivered. The healthiest organization is one that I know when I don't show up to work tomorrow, I know the ramifications of that. How many people can say that today? Like the real value add of me not coming in, because my products are so critical and my skills for those products are so imperative that I have a clear line of sight into what I need to do to deliver them. That happens outside of HR. And I think that's very important to understand.
I like the comment you made you talked to me before about how I know there's a unhealthiness going on is all the training classes that are being offered, because all of us as executives have been trained to make sure training's available, right? Classic LinkedIn thing. What do we do if we train all of our people and they leave? And the statement is, well, what if we don't train them, right? It's a mess. We offer the training. Absolutely. And PM, she said something, Adrienne, I thought you'd expound on this a little bit. You're in trouble when you're offering training and no one's taking it.
Absolutely.
Right? It's almost like it's the wrong training.
It is. And how many times, I love it. So 2 schools of thoughts here. That's a great point, Harry. So I love the people that offer training and then it's like, the class starts on Monday. Well, we're going to cancel. It's Thursday, right? The instructor's on their way. They printed 45 binders. They're hauling in. Flight's already booked. And the training's going to be canceled. And you're like, didn't we cancel that training last quarter? Yeah, low fit fill. We'll offer it next quarter. But wait a minute, 2 consecutive quarters, we've had this training and we've had low fit fill rates. So I'll even go a step further. I love it when we offer trainer and you sit next to the guy with the Simon Sinek. Now, why are you here? I don't know. I just need to get some continuous learning points, I guess. Well, do you do earned value management? No, not really. But I'm in this class, right? So why are you in a class that is not germane to what you do, and it's not going to ensure that you can perform better or produce faster or be more innovative or be more analytical? You're just sitting in the class because this is what you need to do, because you need to keep your points and your certification. It should be very targeted and it should be very deliberate. And this is the beauty of talent management. So because this is so exciting, so bear with me here. There's so much at the managerial level, but it's so critical at the employee level, right? So I'm a program manager, I'm a project manager. This is empowerment for me. There's a clear demystification of success. I know exactly what classes I need to take. I know when I need to take them. I know what products I need to deliver. I know what skills I need to have. Oh, wait a minute, I have some gaps. So when I meet with my leadership about how to develop me, because remember, it's all about mission performance and how to do it better, to do it faster, to be able to think succession planning. All of that is captured in that talent management arena, and it strengthens the partnerships of my role as an employee and my bond with my supervisor to deliver successful talent in support of the mission requirements.
When I was setting up my company, I referred to this as the difference between human HR, human resource management, and HR administration, and human capital administration. But even saying that, I think you've brought a new enlightenment to me. I don't know how PMs can address this. It's still human capital sounds kind of very financial, right? That sounds like a very Kendall way to go about thinking about this. It's not about the human capital. We're humans, first of all. We're not capital. And so I'm having an alignment moment here. It's about the talent we bring to it to get the job done. It's actually the bricks of talent that I need to be counting around my organization, not the humans that embody it per se. It's what kind of talent and what quality I need, which takes us back to the analytics. You made a mention about that. It's a big point in your book. We've had an earlier discussion on it as well. How do we get to the analytics in a meaningful way where people are understanding? You talked about the gap. That implies measuring something else and seeing a variation between the two, right? Mm-hmm. Talk to me about analytics and how do we get there and what should we be looking at?
And what I love about talent and technical solutions is that we build either customizable, they're all very affordable, but leveraging business intelligence. Every organization, particularly small companies, they think, I can't really afford to do that. It's very costly. I would offer to you that you really can't afford to not have some sort of analytic repository. And so when you look at your mission and you literally start outlining exactly what those knowledge, skills, and abilities are, exactly what those products are, and then afford people an opportunity to engage. This is another beauty of talent management. So again, separate from HR, how many surveys do we look at and we hear and see people say only 33, 36, 38% of their people are engaged in their workforce? And it's like, well, how is that not happening? They're not owning their own careers. So literally giving them an interactive way to log into a system that really has a lot of their interest in it, from a demographic stuff, your degrees, your education, your experience, your bio. But this is the beauty of talent management. I want to know, what is Kendall really passionate about? And maybe I offer that in this organization. Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, but what are you really passionate? So I don't want to have you working on a project when I have a gap in this area, a podcast, right? And then I have you over working in engineering and you're like, he's okay, but really not the best fit for engineering because he needs to be over here in PAO doing podcasts and fireside chats, right? But that's really how you get people excited. And so the beauty of talent management, this is about energizing people, increasing engagement, and not looking at it. When you think HR, you think someone tells HR to do something, right? The HR people are executors. They're doing exactly whatever the command says that they need. When you think talent management, think bottoms up, right? This is really getting the voice of your employees, the skills of your employees, the knowledge and abilities of your employees, the training demand signals of the employees wrapped up in a tool that you can see, they can see, managers can see. And you talk about trust and transparency. Like every organization has to embody that to be successful. So it doesn't look like Kendall gets all the good jobs, right? Harry goes to all the cool training. I don't even see this stuff because of where I sit in an organization that hasn't embraced talent management and opened the aperture for all to see that this is how you win here. And ultimately, the company wins by doing that.
Wow, you just said something really important there. And I just heard from our chat that I think it was Beth May that said, in project management, we talk about the iron triangle, the core constraints we work with as we think about planning and executing into projects. And that iron triangle has people sitting in the middle of it. Those are people who are choosing to make decisions and to bring their best to work every day, hopefully, right? And being able to execute into the skill set and the knowledge areas that we want. You said something about trust and transparency there. There's an implication that this is, and you said it's about development. So we're talking performance management in this context too, right? This is the how well are you doing and where you can go with this, I assume.
That is
I
a
hear
great point to make. That's a great point to make.
Yeah.
Exactly, but that's a great point to make. So when you think HR, you do naturally gravitate to performance management. But I would offer to you, if you are having a talent management discussion, you're in the career development and management. It's a little late to be having a talent management discussion, and I'm in a performance management cycle. So ideally, you would want to have all of this rich dialogue outside of that forum, because I really want to know where to focus, what I should be learning, how to map out my individual development plan. Okay, so what are the projects and what are the opportunities in an organization? I need to do that all year long. I think as a byfactor of this exercise and this activity and this enculturation of talent management, you find yourself having better performance conversations. So it's a natural benefactor of having this rich dialogue, but it certainly is more about career management and development along the way that lends itself to people not being surprised at the performance cycle of, I'm sorry, I was supposed to be delivering what now? No one ever told me that. And you can't rely on a job description to guide you through that.
Well, that's where I wanted to go next, because I'm thinking that this means that there's some sense of a ladder within a job description or a job role, right? We have junior, mid, senior, or people with various pieces along the production system to get to the product that you said we got to be focused on. And I'm remembering when I was sitting at my company, people wanted to know, literally they ask, where's the career ladder, right? So you're like junior consultant, apprentice, junior, senior, godlike person, amazing godlike person, platinum, bronze level, whatever, right? You got your talent thing, right? And then I realized, so that answered the question, but didn't resolve the underlying interesting concern, which is, do I know? Well, people have a need to know from an identity perspective, I would imagine. Right. But but separate from that is, how do I know my quality of goodness and where this leads for me? So you talked about it from transparency perspective. How are we able to align this to like the career progression ladder? See, I can say that fast.
Absolutely. No, it's really good. So when we start looking at the products that are being delivered and you start looking at those skills, you start to categorize them, right? Are they basic skills? Are they intermediate skills? Are they really simple awareness? Like you just need to have some awareness of it. Because the other thing is, everybody doesn't need to be an expert at everything. You might need to have, a very high advanced or expert level of project management, program management, but maybe from a contracting or financial management, it's okay to be intermediate. So you take those knowledge, skills, and abilities based on those efficiency and proficiency levels, right, of categorizing, and you start to bucket them. So I can look at myself and say, okay, I need to be maybe intermediate in contracting. That's great. I'll look at the training courses and the leadership and technical courses recommended in that arena, and I'll hover there. But when it gets to project management, I need to be like an expert. So I'll focus on those classes and those leadership development and those project assignments that allow me to have that kind of level. The beauty of it is you're managing, it's called career road mapping, right? And every organization, when I come in, I should be able to see, how do I get to be, Kendall is an expert. He sits over here. This is, success leaves clues, right? These are the little yellow brick road steps that Kendall must have taken to get there. And now there's trust and transparency, demystification of success of to how to get to be the next Kendall in this organization.
Well, you said something really important there, the demystification. Is it a mystery? Is that something you've observed in organizations that people feel that it's a mystery? Like, how do I be better? I mean, I'm scared that people don't get how to do that. So what am I missing here? You're calling it a mystery.
Absolutely. So, you'll meet people throughout your career. And when you ask, like, how did you get to that level? You'll hear everything from, I was just picked. I was blessed. I mean, ordained. Someone just decided it's Kendall's turn and I got that opportunity. And then you'll hear, well, I did this, I took this class, I went back to school, I got an extra degree, I got into a leadership program, I had 4 mentors, I did rotational assignments, I did shadow assignments. And you're like, wow, 2 leaders, same exact positions, high level positions, two total different trajectories. So we know there's a way to get hired, but then we know there's some alternative routes that people have been able to move up that ladder too. So when an organization lays out career roadmaps and you see more and more people are following these steps and getting promoted, it's like there's trust in this process. There's integrity in this process. There's the plum projects that are getting announced and everybody's knowing like, oh, this is what you need to do to move up the ladder. It's not just unique to something that, Harry's doing. So I think it's laying that out. And when you have that in what is a tool or a guidebook or a disseminated roadmap or posted on your SharePoint drive for all technical disciplines across various levels to leverage, it restores trust. And this is an organization that promotes equitable opportunity for not only inclusion, but for access and opportunity to career development and leadership and growth in an organization.
You yourself had a long path with various jobs. We talked about that before. You've done many different things, and I think that's even your recommendation for people to think laterally and try new things. But it did culminate in part in a book around this. And what I liked from it, from where I sit, is it wasn't HR to be transactional. It wasn't the process, how to do it better. It also wasn't, and I don't know the right way to say this, but it wasn't warm and fuzzy. It's not, we should be good to our people. You're very explicit right in the subtitle, corporate dominance. This is about making an organization do what it's supposed to be doing better, and it has to use analytics to get there. Like that just rings for me, and maybe probably based on my own strengths profile, right? My question to you here before I bring up our next guest is, so given that, what made you write a book? I mean, sales, hopefully, there's a product for you. But why?
That's a data point.
Apple is here for a moment, or at least try and change the world, one of the two or both. But what brought you to the book? What made you want to coalesce this?
So this is the interesting thing. If you had asked 5 years ago, are you working on a book? And, I would say, oh, no, who has, no. But I knew we were entering into what was a global international pandemic. I knew we were going to have companies that would not be able to recover and that we would have talent throughout America, throughout the globe, CONUS and OCONUS, where we would need to be able to tap into, for our economy, to tap into the talent that's resident and identify ways to redeploy it, to retrain, to reassess, re-engage, and reinvigorate the market sector. I also am blessed to speak in so many other forums about talent and development and people and mentoring. And so I thought, okay, what better way? I'm often asked, do you have a book? Is there anything I can take with me when we leave the speaking engagement? And I didn't have that. And so I thought, we all have to be in the house at 8 o'clock. If I can offer anything back to shaping and changing the lives of America as we struggle to get back on our feet coming out of this, it would be a simple conversational guide, a grab and go that succinctly describes whether you're an individual trying to navigate through your career or an organization trying to revolt and revolutionize the way you do business in today's society, that I would give you a tool that would be simplistic enough for you to embrace and extrapolate rich information to immediately apply and go to work as we focus on recovery.
So last question before I bring up our next guest, is that audience the managers that need to set up the system or the employee who needs to raise their hand?
And it's both. And I'll tell you why. Because where employees sit in the organization, they can be influencers, right? We have this thing about leadership. I had a great conversation about this today. If you look at business today and you look at companies, they're not advertising leaders. They're advertising influencers. And so I want people at any level of the organization where you're trying to either help your leaders, help your organization, look to be an influencer. This is a book that you can grab and say, hey, we don't do this here. The book is filled with a number of assessment questions where you can give yourself an assessment of where you are on a talent management continuum and see, okay, based on where I am, there's some opportunities for improvement here. Let me propose it to my supervisor or my leader or my manager, or let me use it in the break room or virtually do a chat. And let's talk about some of the tools here and extrapolate what we can use to recover. So at all levels, some of the best decisions aren't at the boardroom table. So I recommend all individuals interested in either ensuring they have the best talented people or growing their own talent capitalize on the opportunity of reading Wingspan.
Well, thank you very much for that. And we're going to come back to you in just a little bit, but I'm going to go ahead and cut us over to our other guest because the busy doesn't stop with Adrienne. Right here we have Michael Taylor. Mike, you out there? Michael.
I am here.
He is the president. There. Yeah, thank you. There I see you now. Yeah, he's the president of TTSC and a program manager at the National Cancer Institute, where you train scientists, right? That's your function, is to be setting up that program. And here's the fun part, on top of all that, a PhD student, because of course he is. You are out there writing, studying, reading, and researching. Welcome, and it looks like you've shown yourself, my good man. So where are you in your PhD cycle? Are we at the writing stage or still taking classes?
My EDD cycle, I am actually at the writing stage. I'm writing my dissertation on workplace bullying.
Oh, wow. That's going to be fascinating. So EDD, Doctorate of Education.
That's correct, yes.
I only know that because that's the one my dad has. I've never met anyone who had one. So I knew there was an affinity in here. Hey, listen. So what got you into this field? I mean, now I'm hearing workplace bullying. It sounds like you've been engaged. You're focused on workplace. So there's a clear connection there. What brought you into this? I mean, you're in here working with Adrienne and doing your own thing as well. You're part of this. What brought you to us or to the field?
I think what brought me into this field was, I had worked in the IT field for many, many years. And I realized that, once I started mentoring people and coaching people, doing my doctorate in education and organizational leadership, I developed a love more for people than I did the computer. As a result, I had the opportunity to work with Ms. Somerville on a large project that we implemented for 35,000 people, including people in Japan and Italy. And it was very gratifying to see the people blossom, to see that they had hope, to see that they could realize their dreams. And all they had to do was just have that little growth mindset and do a little networking, and they could be successful in their careers.
Wow. You just got me vibrating there. First of all, growth mindset. We hear that a lot. We know we should be doing that. So I think we might want to explore in there. But, I realized when you just said that, Japan and Italy. So this is a cross-cultural phenomenon. So we know there are different cultures, but nonetheless, we're talking about talent management in the context or growth mindset in the context of any culture. It sounds like, these are very different cultures, Italy, United States, Japan. How do you see that as playing into culture or not needing to worry about the culture filter in the same way?
Well, to be honest, when you want to run an organization, the culture does play a part in it, but you really want to see the growth of the organization. So this methodology that we use by creating career guidebooks, by creating mobile applications, so not only the people sitting at their desks, but the people that are working with their hands out on the shop floors could also have access to these tool sets that we've created for them. So they could see and demystify, how do I get to the next level? For example, we created tools for like a welder. He could see at the entry level, at the intermediate level, at the journeyman level, the skill sets and the behaviors that he needed to demonstrate just by looking at our career mapping tool that we had. So he didn't have to, because normally when you go out on the job, right, say you're a welder, and you come in the morning and your supervisor says, I want you to do A, B, and C. And you're going out and knocking out those things, but you're not paying attention. What are the skill sets I need to perform optimally in my position? What are the skill sets I need to move up to the next level? So the tools that TTSC has and the tools that we've created in the past, they allow the employee to have that transparency so they can see what they need to do to move to the next level.
So what's the biggest thing? And here's the big question I had for you. What's the biggest thing that the organizations are just not getting? Like, what are they missing here? We all employ people. As an owner operator of a company, and we look at the large companies here in the DC area, certainly, and we just talked about that. This is the $1 trillion project market, multi-trillion-dollar project market. What are we not getting? What's fundamentally missing?
Well, Well, this is what I would say. Every organization is different. So you can't
Mm,
say, what are we not getting? Because all organizations have different culture. They have just a totally different way of doing business.
I don't need to
But what
chat.
I would say for you to find out what they need is you need to do something like an assessment on the organization. So you would analyze the organization and find out what they're not getting. So what TTSC does is we go in and we analyze the organization. And the questions that we have everything that defines a successful organization. So we put that into
Mm,
the assessment and we ask
mm.
the employees, is your organization doing these successful best practices to make your organization successful? Do you feel safe when you come to work? Do you feel like you work in a cohesive work unit? And so you assess the organization, then you'll know what the organization is not doing, and then you work with the management to put in solutions to ensure that the organization can run optimally.
We have a great question in the chat here that ties to your analytics question, and one that has stumped me as well. The difference. The question is specific to how do you handle less definable attributes? And the example is behaviors versus skills and talents. And I've run across this in my own consulting and through requisite organizations that we need to look at what behaviors do you expect. How do you define those as you're looking at it from an organizational perspective? The difference, or is it different? Skills versus behaviors.
Yeah, well, we do look at those as well. We do research. We talk to industry, so we find out what industry's best practices are. We find out what the skills that they need to demonstrate and the behaviors they need to demonstrate. So it's not just the knowledge, skills, and abilities. It's also the behaviors that they need to demonstrate. It's also the proficiency levels they need to demonstrate those behaviors at. For example, and then we let the employees assess themselves. We document all
Uh-huh.
those, we give them assessment, and we let the employee. We say, okay, if you're supposed to be Kendall, you should be from 1 to 10. You should be a 10 in communication, right? So we'll ask you, okay, Kendall, what are you for your writing communication? What are you in your oral skills? What are you 1 to 10? And you might think you're a 10, but I'm going to give that same assessment to your supervisor, and your supervisor might give you a 7. And that's the impetus of a conversation, right? Because sometimes it's difficult. A lot of supervisors, believe it or not, don't know how to have that crucial conversation with their employee. And so with the tools that we have, this will give you an impetus for a conversation with your employee. And your employee will say, well, I thought I was a 10. And your supervisor will say, well, when you were supposed to write that policy, there was a lot of spelling mistakes in there. When you spoke in front of that audience, your slide was probably on slide 10, but you were talking to slide 7. So this is why I gave you that rating. So now that you have that skill gap and that behavioral gap, what are you going to do to close that gap? Are you going to do some on the job training? Are you going to take a class at the University of Maryland? So we work. It's the impetus of the conversation, every assessment. And so this gives you an opportunity to close those skill gaps and perform more optimally in your job position, and ultimately higher performance for the organization.
Well, clearly the answer is you have to join Southern Maryland chapter of PMI. That would be like clearly one of the answers you do to close the gap, as we all know.
Absolutely.
And thank God they don't count typos against CEOs, because anyone who knows they've worked with me, I practically write them all backwards. Every word I write is like mixed up.
Right.
But I have a question about this, because this seems, I was intrigued by the anchoring to products and almost like, well, how could we not be doing that when we talked with Adrienne just a few minutes ago? But then, yes, that seems reasonable, but it also seems hard. Now you're digging in a little bit more about both the behaviors and the skills. How do we know this? I'm sitting here thinking of the different volunteer association, consulting, and teams that I work with, with different companies, working with the government, for example. In all of this thinking, I don't know how to know and now I'm scared, because now I don't have transparency with staff. Like, if I don't know, who does? Well, that's actually the question. Who knows these levels? How do you get to that in a meaningful way that's helpful to staff or to anybody?
Well, that's a great question. So we do research, we go out and research the best of the best and find out what they are. And we'll go into your organization and find out who are the experts in your organization. And we'll find out what those are. We find out what industry best practices are. We find out what's in literature. And then we document that information. So we pretty much do a lot of research and a lot of interviews and a lot of talking, communication, and we document that.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is I'm A, off the hook because I don't have to know, and B, I just have to have a budget to hire you guys to do it. So bring in a consultant. So I'm already liking how this is going.
Absolutely. And we have, TTSC has a number of core products. We have organizational analysis, we do career mapping, we do talent assessments, analytic, engineering. We do policy guidance, IT, we do project management, you name it, coaching, teaching, whatever you need. We've got it.
We've talked about building the bricks to make us a better organization. We've talked about it's about competitive nature. We've talked that it does touch into performance management. Well, in the sense that you should be having the conversations about career management separate, and we'll capture these gaps as we move along because we're tying it to analytics. So I'm hearing this beautiful part connecting. I'm going to take you to your PhD a little bit. Your dissertation a little bit. Sorry, your dissertation a little bit. In this sense, how do we? I heard bullying. I believe is what you said in your thesis there, which I'm going to consider we're assuming is a dysfunction. So, how does talent management and what you're working with TTSC connect to dysfunctional behaviors? How do we capture or exclude, highlight bullying, microaggressions, more systemic issues? Is there a crossover there? I see your interest in them, but is there a crossover in what we're talking about here tonight?
Well, there is. A lot of that can be extrapolated from your organizational assessments. When you give an organizational assessment, there will be some key indicators that will come out of that assessment, and the assessment is done by the employees. And they will let you know that the assessments are anonymous and they are confidential. And when we see the results of those assessments, we can say, okay, we see that there's some bullying going on in the organization. And then also, just by having a conversation with your employees, you can extract that information as well. It's important to have that open dialogue with employees. And then when you see that something like that is occurring in your organization, you have to provide training, you have to provide coaching, because we have a lot of implicit bias that occurs in the organization and can enter in a number of places in the organization, especially when it comes to hiring, special projects, etc. And then when things like bullying are in the organization, you have to address it right away. You have to provide training, you have to define what it is so people knows what it looks like when they see it and they can report it. So it's important to have that communication and have those crucial conversations.
So I'm going to bring Adrienne back in here. I think if she's still out there, is she floating around in the ether there for us?
I'm here. I'm enjoying it. I love it. And you know what Michael said was so true. Just to add another thought, the beauty of talent management is also that 360 feedback. Right. So sometimes we have leaders or supervisors and managers in the position that do not even really like people. Right. And they'll say, oh, but it was the next level. Right. Because there wasn't a career roadmap. So I went from being a technical person and now you've got me with people. I don't really like people. I'm very happy being my project manager, working in the corner, minding my business, working with my team, my tribe. But we put them in leadership positions. Right. So that makes it another dynamic talent management addresses. And if I had to dollarize what organizations spend in litigations, claims, downtime, and productivity, because I told myself a story about why Kendall isn't giving me the position that it only seems like Michael gets picked for all the time, the plum projects. See, that's the thing about talent management. You've got a roadmap filled with opportunities identified. It's very clear what positions are going to get me to the next level, not just the ones that Kendall is afforded the opportunity in a super secret society to learn about.
Absolutely. And I just wanted to say one thing. With the tools that we have, we document all of those skill sets for each individual in our special database. So when someone leaves the organization, we know which skill sets are leaving the organization. So we know what we're lacking. We know what we need to hire to. Additionally, and since we have this, I don't know if you heard of the Great Resignation. We have a lot of people that are resigning now, especially because of COVID. Some people don't want to get the vaccine. And so a lot of people exiting the organization. Companies don't know what skill sets they're losing and what skill sets they need to hire to. So we have all of those skill sets documented, and so you know what's actually leaving the organization. And then if you say for example, you had a special requirement that came up, you can look into our database and say, I see Adrienne has that skill set. I see Kendall has that skill set. I can create a virtual team just based on the skill set of the people that are documented in our database. So any emerging requirement, you've got something to go back to.
I'm thinking of so many applications of this, probably even outside of how you're saying it now. For small, I want the small company addendum. And I'm also thinking there must be a space here that we're talking, I could probably plan to design an organization that doesn't exist yet by thinking through, again, the talent bricks that are going to be needed to get this product. I mean, we think so much of the entrepreneur, right? Comes up with a brilliant idea and get some people to help get some sales going, right? And then you build the organization around it. And it's almost, and certainly in government contracting, which many people in the Beltway are involved with, right? The sale pulls the projects that we need. The sale pulls the skill sets that we need. But I'm getting a sense that we could design an organization ahead of time. The idea of, I think I need a couple of junior people. It's not just job descriptions. It's because I need these types of talents brought to bear at this level for the stage of life cycle. Well, I guess this assumes organizational life cycle. Does this tie to organizational life cycle theory to you guys at all? I mean, do you see it that way? That maturation levels?
Absolutely. And you said something that really reminded me too, Kendall. There are so many organizations that default to that HR behavior of hiring someone, not having a full understanding of the existing portfolio of talent. So we know we all do different things. Some of us wear many hats inside our current positions, and then also in companies, foundations, other community service projects. So if asked, so you want to gain corporate dominance, there's a lot of money spent on HR. And if you're in the federal world, you've got clearances and all other things that you have to pay for. Now, if you have individuals in your organization with skills that aren't germane to their position, but consult and do other things outside, you could potentially pull them on some projects for surge work and not even waste the time hiring, recruiting, a selection board, more paperwork, an offer, more paperwork. You're gaining dominance. You're saving money and avoiding costs just in doing that. And you have then you've got a learning curve of bringing the people in the organization, getting them enculturated into the way you do things. You can save all of that money by just realizing, I didn't know Michael did that. I'm going to borrow him for 6 months. And then with the IT solution, I'm going to assess very quickly, 2 seconds, the impact of moving Michael and deem, yep, that group, that team can still survive and deliver in accordance with their mission requirements.
And when you do that, when you hire
the cost of the overhead on that. I'm sorry.
Yeah, when you hire from within the organization, it creates retention. Because you say, how do you feel if you're sitting up there doing a job and then the organization hires someone from outside? You have to train them when you have those same skill sets. But if I'm sitting in an organization and I'm selected to go and do a job that's maybe at a higher level, it's gonna inspire me to stay with that organization instead of look for outside opportunities.
Well, you just hit a topic for me there, and we have so many more. I can't believe we have 11 minutes left, and I still have like 50 questions for you guys, and we're getting some nice chat coming in here as well. I had one pass through to me here. I've got a little chat screen up here so I can see it that says, okay, that's lovely. How do you address the management of digital employees? Let's think hirement. Does the talent management change as you think digital versus non-digital space or employees in the digital environment? Does that change how you get to them?
No, I think it's even more critical to me to have an understanding and some sort of way to connect with your employees in what I would consider a talent framework, right? Because I don't see you every day. I've got to have some sort of database, right, or some sort of tool to be able to fully understand your portfolio of talent. And this is important. That was a great question, whomever asked that, because if I wanted to search for my next wave of leaders in a digital environment, I don't see you in the conference room every day. You dial
Yep.
in, you may show your face, you may not show your face. I can't gauge your energy level. I don't really have an appreciation for your journey, right? Because talent management captures not only the position I'm in, but the plethora of skills I also bring behind me. You need that in today's environment. To me, it's even more of a demand to have a way to be able to look to see who do I need? Who are my top performing project managers? Who's the next wave of leaders in an organization? That should be available for any organization with the touch of their fingertips in a digital environment. That's the way you learn who the movers, shakers, and doers are, and what the dynamic leadership is going to look like next chapter.
I've argued when I saw LinkedIn arguments or LinkedIn comments made when we were coming out of pandemic, or we thought we were, some 6 months ago, people were saying, look, get into the office. We know who the movers and shakers are because they're the ones that actually come into the office. And I had a visceral reaction to that. And here's where I came at it, was that just indicates lazy CEOs. Because that means you don't know what you really need from employees or what the performance requirement is. Because if we're focused on outcomes, you can't tell me that that's measuring the input, right, instead of the outcome. So I'm with you on that. I just wish I had a way of tracking it. I love what you said there. I want to go back to something you said, Michael. You said hire within, and I get that there's a strong tendency for that. But 60 seconds or less, tell me about how change happens if I am hiring my management, my continuous development of those who have increasing accountability and responsibility from within, or biasing towards from within, right? Drawing from that pool. How would you align that with the need for change and constant adaptation?
Well, again, assessing the organization, you have to do some analytics, right? And then there's always going to be change when you hire from within, or even when you hire from outside. The point is you need to be able to assess and pivot based on your results.
So once we assess, so I might need to hire extra.
Yeah.
Go ahead,
and Kendall, you know what's the beauty of a growing organization that has employees that are reinventing themselves, right? You did contracting. Oh, wait, I did IT. Oh, no, like Michael. No, you pivoted and you did. That's growth. An organization that has a talent pool, a growth mindset, but you have employees that you have developed and trained to be able to reinvent themselves, to be whatever you need them to be, is an organization that's going to thrive, because they always have talent that can rise, if you will, because they're going to be so diverse in their backgrounds technically that they can step into any role.
Adrienne, you mentioned something to me earlier that I thought was interesting, and I think you had it on another podcast even, which is you talk about the supervisor's pain. What is the supervisor's pain that they're facing in this? Because I'm thinking as the executive, design an organization, know where all my talent bricks are. Michael's talking about having the analytics around it, where like the employees need to trust the system, understand the journey, the employee journey that they can be on, the career journey they can be on. What's the supervisor's pain? And why do we care? I mean, they're supervisors. They get paid to suffer.
Right. But I'm very empathetic to a supervisor, right? Because this is the beauty of supervision. I'll define it very quickly. Supervisors have one job. They need to either help you identify what your talents are, if you don't know them. If you do know them, and they're going to help you do the second thing, which is leverage your organizational talents, right? For the goodness of the organization you're supporting. Your talents would then flourish. So to me, a supervisor that has no framework, wait a minute, I'm trying to remember what to tell all 25 employees. I don't have much, my experience is vastly different from yours. I don't even have transparency in how to navigate around this organization, but yet they're supposed to develop the people and then feed data into the HR community to grow the talent pool. So I'm very empathetic of, give me as a supervisor a tool, a framework, some sort of resource that I can at least sit with the employee and literally map out his or her career. That's important as a supervisor. And I'm always fearful as a supervisor wait, what did I say? What should I have said? Did I tell Jack, Jane, and Jill the same thing? Because I don't want one to think I'm favoring, because I don't have that framework. And talent management gives supervisors that. They need tools as well if they are to help people discover who they need to be as an individual, and then define and codify what their organizational contributions should be.
Classic case of alignment here. The organization should know what it's up to and what we expect of people, so that they know what to expect of the organization, right? This seems to be the individual versus the organization, not versus, but in the face of the organization, the two need to be sharing the same space, and that's your framework point, it sounds like.
Right.
With our
and
few
the
minutes
younger
left,
generations, they're going to demand it, Kendall. Younger people, if they can't see how to become super whatever it is in an organization, they won't stay. They need that level of clarity.
Let's talk about project managers. They're often in a matrixed organization where they don't own the care and feeding. They don't own the HR transactions, which maybe is freeing for them. I don't know. Both of you, give me a way for each of you should give me a way for project managers to absorb what you're talking about now. When they think about, I sit in the middle management layer of an organization. I'm not at the executive level, but I do have to engage human beings to achieve product output on a schedule. Ready, set, go. Who wants to go first? Speak to my project managers.
I'll go first. So definitely know what it is you want as a project manager. Let me tell you identify what you want your employees to do. What exactly do you want them to deliver? Be very clear and succinct. Behavioral competencies are key. What do you need them to be in at what level? Either hire someone at that level that can deliver on time, or either hire someone that you're going to be willing to work with to identify the targeted training to close the gaps. Be very clear on the deliverables. That's the first key.
Clear on the deliverables. You anchored it to products to begin with, and products is how we're competing in the market. So I see the alignment. You're on message, Adrienne. Does that surprise you? Michael.
That's good.
Michael,
besides being clear on the deliverables, I would say to also be clear on what the behaviors are, what the proficiency levels are necessary to complete the task, and also to be clear in communication to ensure that the deadlines of the projects and the milestones that they need to meet.
From the in terms of the project, or in terms of their career or their talent development?
In terms of the project, but also, and I want to digress very quickly when we talked about the pain of the supervisor. We have it's not always the job of the supervisor to develop the employee. Although sometimes the employee has to take their career by the horns, right? And they have to be self-motivated. And we provide them the tools to see where they want to go. For example, I have some, because we believe you go further if you go with your strengths. Look up the book Strength Fighters. I'm sure you've probably heard of it, right? So if you have some natural strengths, you're a welder, you want to be an accountant, you want to be into accounting, we've got all those skills and proficiency levels documented for you. So you can just look and see what you need to do. You don't need a supervisor to develop that roadmap for you. So we've got it all laid out for you. It's important to be self-motivated and self-encouraging.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned Strength Finders. I'm a Strength Finders coach. And in fact, tonight I'm on this call while my human capital team, now going to be called talent management team probably, is doing a Strengths Finders orientation with people in my company. Excellent. Right? We try to baseline everyone on it. At least it gives you a chance to think about it. So I invite people to look at that too. I agree with you as well. So for me, in summary, one of the best things I heard here that is very specific to business is, in the face of the great resignation, and we're talking about wages increasing and all, I believe what you're telling me when we talked about demystification, this gives a psychic utility to employees. This may become a competitive way to get talent, is that here we've demystified it. I'm feeling that from what you two are both describing to me today. Mm-hmm. This may become part of the competitive edge, not just in the production of products and services, but the acquisition of talent to begin with.
And the retention.
We can say we knew what that answer was, which takes me to a very last question. We have 30 seconds on this, and then I'm going to bring Harry on to sing us out. Harry's ready to sing. Maybe I'll just let the music play. I don't know. Here we go. We've talked all around this, and now the last question. Who owns this? Do I have to hire a talent management executive? Like we said, it's not HR. I mean, is it the C? Who owns this? Who's this person that knows all this magical stuff and gets this going?
It's a talent management person, either in your organization or the consultants like myself and Michael that come in, set it up, and the people own it. That's the beauty of it.
Mm-hmm.
The people
Absolutely.
own it at every level. Individuals, managers, and leaders. They own their data. It sits in the company on the server.
On that. It's about the accountability, and we all own it, including the employees.
We all own it. And just one quick thing I wanted to
Go
say.
ahead, Michael, take us out.
Talent management is not the same as talent acquisition.
Right.
Talent acquisition is acquiring the talent, but talent management is more managing the talent. It's more identifying, what the employee needs to know from what they don't know and closing that skill gap.
Where can people get hold of you? Where can they find the book? Tell us how we can follow up with you.
You can find the book on Amazon. You can find the book at somervilleconsultinggroup.com. You can reach out to us at info@tts-c.com.
All right. We should probably have that up on the website here to give you some background on that. Michael, you're at the same place. You guys on LinkedIn? People find you on LinkedIn?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That work as well?
Love LinkedIn.
Okay. Well, we want to hear about this thesis when you get done with it. So with that, Harry, tell us how we get our PDUs and let us go home. I got to go put out the fireside chat.
All right. Well, I can't sing a song, but I just want to thank everyone, especially our new producer, Dan Stay, for doing an excellent job. Our illustrious host, Kendall Lott, thank you so much. That was very wonderful presentation and hosting the show. And to our two guests, Adrienne Somerville and Michael Taylor, thank you very, very much. A big shout out.
Thank you for having us.
Oh, our pleasure. And a big shout out to Michelle Weddington of our board for really putting everybody together. So thank you to Michelle. For PDUs, we'll be sending out a PDU card very shortly. And just be on the lookout for our newsletters. We've got lots coming up in the next couple months. So thank you all, and look forward to seeing you soon.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.